Hello, welcome to Heymish Handicrafts. I'm Tina, and this is Binksy. And today, we are going to be making an arrowhead block. Hopefully you can see this because my video is frozen and I can't see what I'm doing. So, while we're going to try to teach you how to make quilt blocks, we're going to learn how to make YouTube videos. And it's an entire learning process for everyone involved. Shall we start? And apparently, I need to hold the quilt block all the way up by my face for you to see it. So this is the arrowhead block that we're going to be making today. And I learned the method of making this one. It is Anita Grossman-Solomon, I believe. And I learned it from a Craftsy class many, many moons ago. So this uses bigger blocks than that tutorial did, so we're going to wing it. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the Anita's Arrowhead block that I learned from Craftsy many moons ago. And it was a much smaller block when she taught it in the class. And I have made it, this time I'm using a layer cake, which is 10-inch squares. And so our measurements are going to be a bit different. So this is how I do it with 10-inch squares. Now this particular quilt that these are going into, my dark fabrics are going to be mixed with a light gray square. And my light colored fabrics are going to be mixed with a dark gray square. So they're going to be made exactly the same way. We're just going to swap the colors out and it'll give it a nice contrast throughout. So since we know that not all 10-inch squares are equal, and certainly not all pre-cuts are equal. Now, these grays I cut myself from yardage. This was a layer cake that came from Amazon. And so when I lay them on top of each other, I can see that my layer cake is, as you can see, just that bit smaller on the edges. So I'm going to make sure I keep that on the top. So to do this the way that I was taught, we're going to take our 10 inches and divide by 4, which gives us 2.5. Yeah? So for 2.5, I have this wonderful 2.5-inch ruler, which is very handy. Now for me, I'm going to measure that 2.5 inches from the inside of the peaks on my smallest square. So I'm going to make a mark here, and I'm going to do the same thing up here, taking that just inside, and I'm going to put the mark on the right hand side this time. So when I take this to the machine, I'm going to start sewing here. I'm going to sew down and all the way off this edge. Then I'm going to cut my thread. And I'm going to start sewing here at this line and go up and all the way across off this edge. There will be no stitches here, and there will be no stitches here. Now, this is a water-soluble marker, which I have had very good experience with, so I don't mind marking, because that will come right off a little bit of water. Not a problem. So I'm going to take this to the machine and give it a sew. I'm not going to keep moving my camera over because I haven't quite figured that out yet. So I'm going to come back with it on and show you what we're doing. Okay? Okay. Okay, we are back from the sewing machine. And you can't really see it because I use white thread. So I'm going to flip my block over. Now, you should be able to see a lot better the white thread on the gray. So you can see where I did not stitch. Correct? All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. We are going to cut this from this corner, which has where it crosses over, and this corner. This is our no-sew. This is our no-sew. So we're cutting the other corners. We're going to cut diagonally through those corners, just like this. Only I'm going to do it over at the cutting table with a rotary cutter, but so that you can see we are going to cut these diagonally in half that way. Okay, we are back from the cutting table. Eventually I will get more used to having different setups and switching between the cameras, but for now, please bear with me. So we're going to take our 2 triangles that we just cut, and we're going to stack them on top of each other. So this unsewn bit is going to line up with this unsewn bit. And we're going to line them up together just like that. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut again. But this time, we're going to cut that same 2.5 inches, right? So we're going to take that 2.5 inches, and because, remember, I'm using that seam from my smaller side, I'm going to make sure that my seam line is on that 1/4 inch line. And we're going to go to the cutting table and we're going to make a cut here, 2.5 inches up from that side, and 2.5 inches in from that side, just like so. That is where I'm going to cut. So let me go cut those, and then I will be back. After we have made those cuts, this is what we're going to end up with. We're going to have 4 individual triangles, 2 of the gray and 2 of the print. We're going to have these 2 units, and we're going to have 4 arrows, 2 with the solid on the right and 2 with the solid on the left. Now, what we're going to do is, back at the sewing machine, we are going to nest those seams right up and sew down this side right here. And that is going to open up and give us a 4 patch like this in the middle. Now, this arrow that has the solid on that side will go here. The matching arrow will go there. So we'll alternate. These will then in turn go this way, but before we add those, we're going to put our triangles on opposing corners. So prints are going to touch solids, and solids are going to touch prints. And that is how our block gets laid out. So we're going to make this 4 patch first and add the outsides. Then we're going to add these side triangles to the center little dart. Okay, I'm going to do all that and come on back to you. 5-degree diagonal on my block. I know you can't see it because I don't have a camera set up over here yet, but that's essentially what's, and I'm trimming off 2 sides, and then I'm going to turn it and square it up on the other side. And I'm going to square this block up to 12. And what that will result in is that means my finished block, once I sew it into the quilt, will be 11.5. Not your standard typical number, but as long as all of my blocks are squared to the same size, they'll all fit together. So here we come, right on back, and here we have a nicely trimmed 12-inch block. Not 12.5, remember, once it's sewn together,